views expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of WPSL. However, you are encouraged to like and share them on Facebook. It's time for the Sue Ellen Sanders Show. Here she is right now, Sue Ellen Sanders.
Welcome to the Sue Ellen Sanders Show, and happy to have you here this weekend. And we're lucky to have our St. Lucie County Property Appraiser, Michelle Franklin, with us today in the studio because there is a lot of information that you need to know. The trim notices are going out, and you need, if you don't know what those are, and I used to think they were, maybe notices from my hair cuttery to come in and get my hair cut, yes. But in fact, they're not. And we're also going to be talking about some initiatives that are on the ballot that concern the property appraiser's office as well. So, Michelle, welcome.
Hi there. Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to join you.
So every year at this time, we try to have you or somebody from your office, if you're not available, come and talk about it, because there are a lot of things that people who know a lot about a lot of different things may not know about the property appraiser's office and about appraising your property or what your needs are or the ins and outs. And it's always nice to lay all the information out on the table, so to speak.
Yes. So, most of us live pretty busy lives nowadays. And currently there's a little thing called COVID going on. So that's taking some attention as well. So what I try to communicate to people is really there's a couple of important things about that trim notice that I want you to check out. Hits your mailbox mid-August every year. If you don't already have it in your mailbox today, which most, I think, people do, but you can also check it out on the website.
Ooh, Cliff's holding up his trim notice.
Yay!
Look at that.
Awesome.
Oh, it came here. Yes.
So you can catch them if it's not in your mailbox and you're eager to look at it. PA, which stands for Property Appraiser, slc.org, Property Appraiser, St. Lucie County, and you just search by your property address or name. If you happen to know your parcel number, which I'm sure you don't, but if somebody did, you could search any of those ways, or even by our map feature, and then go down and click on trim, and that will take you directly to your trim notice. Lots of information, 2 pages, a ton of numbers, more numbers than most people want to digest, but there's 2 real important things. The first is the value of your property, and what we call on there is market value. That is for tax purposes only. And it is from January 1 of 2020. So it's actually based on sales that happened in 2019 in your, I say neighborhood, but in St. Lucie County that can be a little gray area with neighborhoods. So it's a like property in somewhat the general area of your property. So that market value for tax purposes, and then for those of us that have homestead exemptions, our primary residence that's here in the state of Florida, you also want to confirm that you have that exemption on your property. People can forget it's a long time in between these notices, and sometimes people end up adding a spouse, removing a spouse, filing a deed to put their property into trust, or other things that can happen.
So those are some of the things that could happen that would have you lose the exemption and have to file for it again?
Exactly. And I hate to say lose, because in some cases, speaking with a gentleman today who put his property into trust, once we have that information and confirm the ownership of that property, it has remained the same. You don't lose the exemption, but you would need to refile.
It just changes, so you need to refile.
Exactly, there's a change.
Right.
So if people check that notice, and oftentimes we call throughout the year, we do mailings several times throughout the year, but the trim notice is your official notification that this is what's going on with your property, and this is what you can expect to see on your tax bill that's going to be mailed out in November 1 by our tax collector.
And this is probably a good time to also discuss the difference between a tax collector and a tax appraiser, because
We like to say property, not
property,
tax.
property, yes, property, because sometimes people confuse the two or lump them together. The tax collector is the person who sends those tax notices out and collects, and who you actually write your check to for taxes for your property.
Exactly. So we are charged constitutionally with placing a value on the property, as well as administering any exemptions or agricultural classifications. We also are the official mapper of St. Lucie County. So the things related to that are handled by the property appraiser's office. Once we have that information, we give the value information to the 21 different taxing authorities in St. Lucie County. Those are all listed on your trim notice. You won't have 21 on yours, because if you live in the city of Port St. Lucie, you don't live in the city of Fort Pierce, or the villages. Or
But there's 21 that could be
there are
chosen
21
from.
within St. Lucie County total.
Yes. The
So-
typical notice has about how many on it then? Is there
That's a great
range?
question. Yeah, I don't know off
Yeah,
the top of my
okay.
head what it would be considered typical.
Yeah.
I can tell you that, the city of Port St. Lucie, city of Fort Pierce, and the village, and then, unincorporated counties, your sheriff and jail budget and things like that, everyone is contributing to that. Everyone's contributing to the fire district, to the Children's Service Council. Most have some type of water management, whether it's South Florida water management or North St. Lucie. So that kind of varies.
And you don't really get, you definitely don't. There's no really about, you don't get a say in
Definitely
that.
don't get a say.
Except for
we
through
create
your
the market
voting.
creates the value.
Yes.
We create the form, the official Department of Revenue form that is filled out, that is sent to those taxing authorities to tell them what the value of their area is. They will establish a budget. They will establish a rate. They will give us the date of those hearings where they're going to, in public, officially adopt those rates and budgets. And then, of course, we will send that information over to our tax collector, and our tax collector will create the bill, mail it out to you.
Now, all of those taxing authorities, everyone across the board doesn't pay the same amount to them, because it's percentage of, right?
Say it again.
So
I'm looking at her. I'm
I
giving
know.
her the look
It
of like,
made-
wait, what?
It made sense in my head when I asked the question. So all of those taxing authorities, say you and I don't pay exactly the same amount to all of them, correct?
Correct. We do not.
So it's based on a pro rata percentage.
Well, and remember, we're always paying in arrears. So when you get this bill, November 1, 2020, you're paying from January 1 through December 31 of 2020. So that bill truly isn't due until 2021. Many people like to pay it in November. You get the greatest discount. But you're paying in arrears, and again, you're paying off of a value that was established in the prior year. How the taxing authorities establish their rate and their budgets, that's between
It's
them.
not your job.
That's not my cow, not my pasture, I like to say. So I'm
but they give you that information, and then you
they
tell
give us
them
rate information. So that is all we get is the rate, and we will add that to the trim notice. So that's where page 1, you will see several columns that say, this is what you paid last year. This is what you will pay this year if the budget is approved. And remember, that is your max increase that you can see. And then you have another rate that if the budget isn't approved, that's so all the columns, all the numbers, all the things. And then below that, you add in non-ad valorem assessments, which are not related to value.
Okay.
Those are service fee-based assessments. So things like street lights, your solid waste assessment, things like that are different for each and every property.
So here's a question for you. I was wondering, do any tax notices or any two tax notices alike?
They can be, or they cannot be.
So if my exact house was moved to a different area, would it then be different?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, especially if it was moved to a different municipality.
I gotcha. Okay.
And remember, you could have, let's say your house is on lot 2 and your exact same house, the builder built them at the exact same time using the exact same materials, looks exactly the same, and it's right next door. You and your neighbor could have a different tax bill because Florida is wonderfully known for exemptions.
Oh, right.
And so you could
So
have
it's
moved
up
in
to-
and lived there
Yes.
since day one, and your neighbor next door moved in 5 years later, and you have the exact same house, exact same everything, and your neighbor who moved in 5 years later is actually paying $2,000 more than you. That is very common throughout our county and the state, truly.
So it's kind of like kids with the report cards. You can't really compare to your neighbors because there's a whole
can't.
set of conditions that create.
And
What
since
you're paying.
since exemptions came into play, and remember the biggest part of exemptions are two-piece. One part is your $50,000 off of your assessed value. What becomes the bigger piece over time is the 3% cap on your value. So even though our market is increasing at, let's just say, a 5% rate last year, you're only paying on 3% of that increase. And that is actually the max it can increase. It's determined by the CPI. So you could actually
What's the CPI?
Consumer Price Index,
Yes,
set up in
okay.
Tallahassee.
Okay.
They give us the information. This is what the CPI is for this year. And so for many years it's been less than 3% of an increase that we have seen. But what's come into play also is maybe I moved in next door to you, going back to that example. I moved in next door, we have the exact same house, and I came in 5 years later, but I came from Broward, which is not uncommon right now. We're getting some
Right.
folks from the south that are moving up here. I come from Broward, and I had this wonderful property in Broward, and I had been there since, the beginning of time. And I bring my portability with me from Broward County. And so next thing you know, you've been in that house 10 years, but I brought so much tax savings, the portability, the cap benefit that I wasn't paying on because of that 3% cap. I brought my cap savings from Broward to St. Lucie, and now I'm paying less than you pay.
Who figures all this stuff out? And what did they do before there were computers?
Yeah. We didn't have portability before
Okay.
computers, so
Okay.
that's a good thing.
Yeah.
We did value property. We still have some property record cards in the office that I just can't let go of that are done with pencil, and where we would today have a photo on the website of your house, there's sketches in pencil
Wow.
that appraisers did, and
So
every
the
time somebody
appraisers really had a different
Yeah.
level of what their talents needed to be.
Absolutely. They had a very interesting job, and computers have made that much easier and so nice to automate the 170,000 plus properties that we have in St. Lucie County now, that we have to remember, put a value on each and every year, and then apply. We have about 90,000 plus exemptions on single family homes in St. Lucie County currently. So we work through those.
But with computers, you can just program that in. So back to the trim notice.
Yes.
First of all, trim stands for
Truth in millage.
okay.
And so it's kind of ironic in my mind that the point of it was to send you a notice to make sure that you could understand and hold local government accountable for the rate.
It's kind of like it's saying, this is what I'm going to bill you, okay?
Exactly. And it's saying, if not, you have an opportunity to come in and voice your opinion about that. But what often happens is people open it and they look at it and they're so overwhelmed by all the numbers and the columns
yeah.
and the color coding that they're like, not a bill? Great. I'll set that on the desk.
Yes.
Or we'll file it away. So that's why I try to remind people, really, if you can, we have, there's a phenomenal staff at the property appraiser's office. I can't sing their praises enough. That if you call, we will walk you through it. We absolutely will go step by step and walk through it. If you have access to social media or YouTube, we have videos on there explaining, highlighting each section and telling you what that means. I encourage people to take a moment to view those. But if you can't do any of that, just look for those two things. Make sure your exemption is set. Make sure that you agree with that value.
Mm-hmm.
And if not, there's, we have 25 days from the date we mail that notice to make some modifications. So maybe you have information about your house that we don't have. We're, like I said, this is mass appraisal. We're doing this for 180,000 properties each and every year. I will say that we know St. Lucie County properties better than you do, but you know your property better than we do. So maybe there's something in the records, and when we talk to you, we learn, oh no, when you just bought it, you bought a shell of a house. There was no toilets and sinks and things of that nature. So we can make some adjustments on that. Or we may have information for you. Oh, remember that house that was for sale down at the corner? This is what it sold for. And you're like, what? How did that little thing sell for that much money? There's no way. So we can provide you with the information of the sales that happened in your neighborhood. And then you may say, yeah, I'm good with this value. Actually,
Right.
I agree.
Well, because the bottom line is the higher your value, the more you'll someday be able to sell your house for.
In theory, and as long as we don't
Yeah,
get some
as
kind
long
of market
as, yeah,
correction.
Yeah.
Don't get me into trouble
Right,
here.
right. No. But I mean, if you were to put your house on the market that next week,
Right.
then.
But remember, we're always a year behind.
Right.
So as you're looking at this notice right now,
That's
this
how
is
much your
based
house
off
was
of-
worth last year.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
And now, in our current state of, COVID, sales are just happening quickly. And so I haven't seen the prices jump dramatically, but we've definitely seen the sales happen at a rapid rate.
People's decision making is.
Yeah, a lot of people
Yeah.
coming down from up north or from down south, and they're like, this is where we're going to be when we retire. So I'm going to go ahead now. I have a little bit of time. I had a month at home,
Yeah.
and so I
I'm
went
gonna
ahead
go
and shopped.
into-
And
yeah.
some people are buying it sight unseen.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Well, God bless the realtors moving forward with the times. They're doing open houses online
Absolutely.
and whole video walkthroughs. So there's a lot of stuff that people who are coming from north, or as you said, from Miami Broward area, to check it out and to be able to purchase without even traveling.
True professionals, I tell you, the real estate professionals, the title companies, the attorneys that are getting the closings done. I'm amazed at how quickly they've learned to pivot and get it done.
Pivot. Isn't that the word of 2020, right?
Oh, yes.
I don't know if you're old enough, but do you
I'll go with
remember? Okay. Do you remember the Friends show with the pivot? Look it up.
I'll have to look it up.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I
'Cause
really don't watch much TV.
No,
I know
that
people
was
get me all the time.
old. Well, not
Yeah.
old. But
Yeah, no, I
a
do
little
remember
old.
Friends. That would have
Okay.
been my time. But
Okay,
I'm
so
just not a
Ross
Friends
was
watcher.
moving a couch up the staircase, and he kept telling his buddies who were trying to carry it, pivot, and
Oh.
they didn't know what pivot meant. So
So I bet that was worth a few laughs.
yeah. So it was I think the show, you know how they used to name those shows, and I think that was called Pivot. So look it up. But anyhow, that's the word of 2020
Yes.
is definitely pivot. And the real estate market, so including the agents and the title companies and everybody that's involved has, pivoted. And you too have pivoted, because in the past you had quite a number of visitors to your office. So are we done talking about the trim notice, or do we have more stuff that we need to talk about with it?
Well, I will say during this time, I encourage anyone who has questions or concerns about their notice to contact us. The county buildings are not officially open to the public at this time. So we are not welcoming in-person visits, but we are handling things virtually and by phone and, a carrier pigeon if need be. We'll figure out how to help
Had to do
somebody
it, yeah.
that needs help. So I would just encourage people to contact us if they have any questions or
Right.
concerns.
Right.
And then the formal deadline to appeal, if somebody should choose to appeal their value or their exemption status, is September 12th. So, the 11th this year, September 11th. And so, you want to look at that notice sooner than later, because you want to make sure that you have the ability to file or to discuss it with somebody before that deadline if need be.
So you shouldn't wait till September 11th to call the property appraiser's office.
And we are offering extended hours, because I know that right now time is just interesting and the day can get away from you. I don't know how many Zoom calls you've been on, but you're like, wait, how can the day already be over? All I've done is sit here and Zoom.
I know.
But yes, so we are offering extended hours until 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. So we're available from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. to help people and to answer any questions.
And it's the regular phone number that you call.
Yes, ma'am. 772-462-1000. Or you can hop online and get to a host of different departments by paslc.org. So PA stands for Property Appraiser, SLC for St. Lucie County.org. And there's a wealth of information. You can go down a whole rabbit hole of all kinds of information there.
And if you're a do-it-yourself type person, you can look up how-to videos, how to view your trim notice.
Absolutely.
You've got it listed on YouTube, on Facebook.
YouTube. I think both those have videos. I should probably know a little more about this than I do, but there's some things on Instagram and Twitter, but I don't think there's the videos of how-to on there.
No, it would be tough to list that there, but it probably drives people to that. So you could actually probably go to YouTube and put in St. Lucie County Property Appraiser, or put in your name, Michelle Franklin, and
there's several videos that cover exemptions and the trim notice and how we value property. There's several different videos there.
And you can always call and somebody will walk you through, or you can email and then leave a phone number and somebody can get back to you. And extended hours now, because you don't want to wait until September 11th to make that phone call.
Please don't wait.
So let's talk about, so say I'm calling because I'm confused because one of those numbers has changed a lot since last year, and I don't know why. What are the type of questions that I'm asked, and what are the steps that I'm going to have to take at that point?
For most people that are going to call, we need to either know, we can search your property by your name, by your address, or your parcel number, which is located right at the corner of your trim notice. So we'll generally ask for one of those types of information. Our ladies on the phone center, the call center, they're just phenomenal, and they're just so kind. And so they will slowly walk through or quickly walk through, depending upon
your time,
who's calling. And so they will then try to narrow down what the concern is. And let's just run with yours and say, last year my property taxes were, $2,500 less than they are projected to be this year. So they will pinpoint why. A situation like that, which happens pretty frequently, is usually that you purchased the home back in 2019 and the prior homeowner had an exemption and a capped value in place, and that has gone with the prior homeowner. And you now, as a new homeowner, set your new base rate and you go from there. So that's very
Is that
common.
one of the most common?
That's one of the most common. We've tried to help people understand that. We've now sent postcards out in February to those that have purchased homes or even vacant lots or second homes, because if you don't have a 3% cap, all other properties have a 10% cap. So over the years, that 10% cap can really become a benefit as well. So even if you have a vacant lot, if you're going to see an increase, if that cap is being removed, we try to reach out and send you another notice, like take a look now, so that you can start preparing in February that your tax bill is going to look different than it did for the prior owner last November.
What are some other things that could raise those numbers significantly?
You lost your exemption.
Okay.
Again, you put your property into a trust. Some people don't realize, maybe you've lived in your property, you lived in your house for quite a while, and you haven't moved, and you don't remember per se that you made a change to your deed because you just added your son Jake on just for estate planning purposes. So if something should happen to you, so you didn't, necessarily.
You didn't
Put
think
Jake
about it.
on. Jake didn't move into the house.
Right.
Jake's still in his own house. All the things are great, but I just put Jake on for planning purposes. Well, now you've made that change to the deed. Therefore, your exemption would come off.
So
we can get it put
would
back
have
on.
to.
But we've got to understand what happened. We've got to look at the percentage of ownership. And each case is unique, so I hate to go too in the weeds with it because it can be a little different for everyone. But we want to help you. I mean, I want every person in St. Lucie County that is entitled to an exemption to have it. I don't get any benefit from extra taxes, any of that. I want to tell you that your house.
There's no bonus
There's
program.
no bonus. I want to tell you how valuable your property is and
Yes.
hope that that's a great thing. And then I want to give you an exemption so you don't even have to pay on that full amount.
Right.
That's my goal. But, things like that can happen and people just, they forget. They don't realize they need to come file again. Some people don't even know what a homestead exemption is.
So beyond the trim notice, if somebody is looking at your home, say you're thinking about putting it on the market, they might look at what's listed on the property appraiser's office to get an idea of what. Now, if what's listed on the property appraiser's office, say for example, if you have a 4-2 and it says that you have a 3-1 or something like that, is that a reason for concern?
Concern. I'm not sure if that's the right word. What helps determine your value is going to be square footage. So if you say, hey, Michelle, you have me listed as a 3-bedroom. I'm really a 4-bedroom. Give me your address. I'll make that change. Super easy. So because there's really not an impact to value if you have 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, 5 bedrooms.
It's
because
the
we're going to use
square footage.
The square footage under air.
Under air.
The square footage
Okay.
that's not under air also has some value. So there are things there too. But, the more value is under air. Now, you mentioned bathrooms. If we have the bathroom count off, that will change the value a little bit. It's not going to be huge, but we want it to be correct. And we make every effort to try to get our data 100% correct. But again, we're a little outnumbered with 170,000 plus properties.
Right.
And so and people change. They're constantly modifying
Yes.
homes.
Well, and that was actually going to be my next question. Are there things that you could have done since last year that changed the value of your home?
Absolutely. So maybe you put a pool in because there are a lot of pools going in during this time.
I've noticed, yeah.
Boy, if we were in the pool business.
Yeah.
But yes, so if you added a pool, let's say, and a deck and a screen enclosure, that is going to add new value to your property. So that will be the first year that it comes in under that base value. And then every year thereafter, it's capped. Your 3% cap applies. So new value, new construction adds new value. That could change it as well. It's not going to change, you're not going to pay $5,000 in taxes for a new pool.
Will
so
you know?
Don't
will
anybody
you know?
think that?
Will you know all that, or do we have to tell you? Do you look at the pool permits?
Yes, all of the municipalities give us information regarding permits.
Okay.
So whether it's a new home or a new water heater. Now, we don't check water heaters. That kind of just goes into the good information to have pile.
But I mean, redoing the back porch, for example.
Like if you were going to retile your back porch.
Okay.
And, some people I bet are just awesome, phenomenal tile setters. And they're going to do a great job. And they're doing it themselves. We may not know about that. Now, if they pulled a permit because they had a company come in and do it, we would get that information. Now, the other interesting thing of that is every 5 years, we are actually on the property. So we may not pick it up this year or next year, but when we're doing our 5-year review,
you'll notice the pool.
we're likely to notice $1 million tile job on the back porch.
I'd like to see $1 million tile job.
Oh, I thought you had one in your house. No?
Even inside the house. So, so say if you pull up carpet and put down new wood floors and
we will
like
we
that.
will make that note, but we don't. That does not add to
doesn't-
the value. We
no.
don't look inside homes. So
Okay. So it's
we
just
do
what you
walk
see on the
around and we
outside.
see things on the exterior porches. We do make note of what's inside for flooring. We do not come in. We do not look at cabinets. Not like an independent appraiser would walk through your house and make note of those things and your wonderful fixtures and your heightened ceilings.
So there's a
and that.
difference. Yeah. So
There's
there is a
absolutely
difference.
We're doing a mass appraisal. We're going to do a whole county in a day. I like to say on January 1, while you're recovering from your New Year's Eve, we're going to place a value on every single property in St. Lucie County.
So are you physically going to be out and looking?
Kind of like Santa Claus. on
Yes, I know. Do you have a
She's like, "Good thing I
property
sleep late."
appraiser
No.
sleigh?
I'm sure the Department of Revenue is sending that down.
Yeah.
No. We use that date as our assessment date, and we work through that information until basically late May of every year.
So my question is, does somebody stand in the street at some point looking at my house?
Yes. They walk around your house. They
Yes.
will actually come up to your door. They'll knock on your door. If they're there, they'll speak to you. If not, they'll just walk right around the exterior of your property, and they'll take a look and make sure that what we have on our record card, that information matches what's actually on the site. Do you have, a cement back porch, or do you have tile? Do you have a screened enclosure, or maybe we went through hurricanes and you got rid of the screen years ago and now it's just an open back porch. So we will verify all that. We also have imagery that we fly imagery every other year of our entire county. And there's such amazing technology in our assessment world right now. And it actually will give us change detection. So it'll say
You can compare to what it was
you get
before.
a little
how
red,
it-
yellow,
yeah.
green. That's like, oh, something's a little different here than it was the last time we flew this area.
Now you have an entire department that's in charge of that, right? What are
Yes.
they? Who are they called?
Well, we have appraisers. We have field appraisers that are boots on the ground.
Yes.
We have our analysts, what we call them, appraiser analysts, that are actually analyzing the data. We have a GIS department that is kind of working with that aerial
Geographic.
aerial
Thanks,
imagery. We
thank
have
you.
a mapper that is handling all the new subdivisions and turning these large plats of land into individual lots. And so they all work together along with our public service professionals who, again, are giving an exemption to all those owners that come in and say, I qualify for whatever that may be, just a regular homestead, widowers, veterans, total disability. We've got several different exemptions that people may qualify for.
So, how soon is finding out about exemptions that you qualify for? Is that something that you have to do on a regular basis, or only when something changes in your life? How soon should you contact the property appraiser's office?
Yeah, the legislators they can make changes at any time each year. They can make changes. So I think it's always a good idea to kind of keep your ear to the ground. If you're one of those social media people, you want to follow on social media because we're going to post there if there's any changes. Checking the website once in a while. I try to get on some radio spots and do radio shows like this and get out in the community and share if there's anything new and exciting happening. But we also try really hard to reach out to you. So if you've turned 65 and we have indication that your income may be within the range for our person's exemption for persons 65 and older, we will try to reach out to you and say, hey, there's a income
Happy
cap
birthday.
Happy birthday. There's an income cap on this exemption. Don't know if this is something, but if you remotely think you're in the neighborhood of this, come talk to us and let's find out if you qualify for this exemption.
So, and then obviously someone who gets married, which could happen at any age.
Yes. Then, and those are unique because do you both people come to the marriage with a house of their own? Is there only one? Are we staying? Do they have property somewhere else? I mean,
But
all
you can
situations
call
are
the
unique.
property appraiser's office and
Absolutely.
talk to your
Contact us
contact.
always.
Yeah.
Just a quick check-in. And sometimes it may be like, I heard something on the radio. Maybe, is there anything? We'll look at the property. We'll ask a couple questions. If we can help you, we'll let you know how to file. You can file for any of our exemptions 100% online. Takes less than 10 minutes for most people. If you can type in your name and hit enter, you can do it.
All right. So the main dated information to know now is that you should be receiving any day, if you haven't already, your trim notice in the mail. And then you will have until September 11th to either say, by not contacting you, you're saying, it's okay, I accept it. And by contacting you, then you may ask questions or for clarification.
Absolutely. And remember, when you're calling the property appraiser's office, we're gonna be able to talk about the value of your property or the exemptions. We can't talk about that total tax dollar, that bottom line that's like, well, I just don't think I should have to pay $6,000. We can't do anything
That's
about
not something that you have
amount.
control
We can talk
over.
about the value of your property, whether you believe that home is worth $200,000 or that vacant lot is worth 30 or whatever it is, but we can't talk about the bottom line dollar amount.
Don't tap the table.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. You're getting closer and
know.
Closer.
Getting so
and I'm just
excited.
watching your hand. I know you talk with your hands.
I do.
So September 11th, and after September 11th, then if you haven't gotten that information in, then when you get your tax bill,
Still call us.
okay.
I mean, any point in time that you have questions, call us and contact us. And if there is an error that's on our part, we can fix that. There's a process we can go through. We send that information up to Tallahassee. They have to approve it.
Is there a name for that?
Is there a name? Well, the E&I. It's an
okay.
actual, yeah.
Yeah.
it's-
Not a
but-
name we know.
No, not a
Yeah.
name you know.
Okay.
But we can actually correct it if it's our error. If it's on the part of the property owner,
If you forgot to file
if you
for
forgot to file.
Yeah.
If if you just disagree, and we agree to disagree that we don't agree on the value, there's not much you can do after that date because we have sent that information to the tax collector. The tax roll has been certified by Tallahassee, and so now it's kind of out of our hands
until next year.
Until next year.
Yeah.
So, but again, I want to help people. So if there is some way that legally we can help people, we're gonna try to do
So
that.
call anyhow, and then you'll determine
Call.
if there's something.
But the
that
earlier
you can do
is
or
the
not.
better, definitely.
You said that things occasionally something new comes along, and that the best way to find out about that is really to the St. Lucie County Property Appraiser on Facebook or Twitter and get the most up-to-date information, or to check in on the website. But you've got some information too for some changes or potential changes that will be coming on the ballot in November.
Yes, ma'am. This November, there's a few things on the ballot, but related to the property appraiser's office, there's actually 2 amendments. The first one I will speak to is Amendment 5. We briefly spoke earlier about portability.
Mm-hmm.
So a piece,
Which is moving
your tax savings from one property in Florida to your next property in Florida. So it doesn't have to be St. Lucie County, anywhere in the state of Florida. So currently, if you have portability, the easiest way I can say this is you can miss one January 1. So you leave your house December of 2019, you can miss 1/1/20, but by 1/1/21, you have to be in your home and you have to be filing for homestead there. That can be a little problematic for some people when we have, and I was just looking at the monitor over there with Storm Tracker,
Yes.
So there, we've had some situations where people they've gone through hurricanes.
And
we're
so they're
living
in
Florida.
temporary housing. They're not going from one home to another.
Or they are going from one home, but they were building that home.
Yes.
And all of a sudden construction had to halt.
Yes.
Or maybe you had every intention to do something, but real estate deals, sometimes they just don't go as smooth as the real estate professionals would like. And so, somebody had to wait to get the other house sold. They were going to buy your house, but then it delayed it for 3 more months, and all the things can happen. So if you miss more than one January 1, you've lost your tax savings. So whether that permanently,
you
gone.
can't take it. You
It's
can't
gone.
come
You no
back
longer
and
have
get
portability.
It. Yes.
You
okay.
went from having, let's just pull a number out of thin air and say you had $75,000 of portability that you were going to move, and because your home, you didn't close on December 30th, it was pushed to January 10th, you lost that portability completely.
So you can't rent for 2 years in between.
You can miss
Just one.
January 1
Okay.
right now.
Okay. But
on the ballot,
okay.
we will be able to
I
vote
heard
to
the but.
extend that
Yes.
so that you could actually miss 2 January 1s.
Which
so they
would be very
say
helpful.
that's 3 years. Depending on where in the tax year you come, it may not fully be 3 years, but it'll 2 January 1. So basically it extends the time period for 1 additional year. So people will want to vote yes if they believe that you should have a full 2 years, 2 January 1s that you can miss, to take your tax savings from one Florida property to another Florida property.
So what would be the reason people would vote no?
I'm not sure.
But I mean, even if it doesn't affect you personally, it's still giving people who are moving from one property in Florida to another property in Florida a break on their taxes.
Sometimes, in my experience, people from other states believe that Florida has a very unfair tax structure.
Ah.
So they may say we shouldn't increase our benefits.
I gotcha. Okay.
Or if you are a taxing authority, that can really wreak a little havoc with the budget process.
Right, because there's not as much money in the pot.
There's a cap on that. And sometimes, like I said, you're moving savings. You may be moving savings from Broward to St. Lucie, from St. Lucie to Bay County to, down to Hillsborough. You're moving. So, and you don't ever know. We can't plan appropriately. We don't know who's coming.
Right.
Until they're here.
It's kind of like they're carrying around a discount coupon.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you don't know how many are out there.
Right.
Or how many are coming in on any given day. So that could impact people's decisions as well.
So what do you think? Or you're not allowed to say?
I
no.
Again, I'm all for giving every property owner every benefit to which they're entitled.
I think good answer. Yeah, that was really good.
So, the second piece, though, you talked about 2 things. So on the ballot, also Amendment 6, 5 and 6 right together. 6, currently veterans that have exemptions, should something happen to the veteran and they are no longer with us, the benefit is not transferred to their spouse.
Oh.
So
I remember, wasn't this on the ballot one time before?
A version of
okay,
it.
Okay.
So this is if a...
Are you impressed that I remembered that?
I am extremely impressed. So this is if a veteran has an exemption and they are deceased, the exemption will move to their surviving spouse upon their death. So if the spouse remarries, it's void. If, there's some things that can happen. But if the spouse remains unmarried and in that home, or they can transfer it to a new home even, but they will.
If they downsize.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that makes a lot of sense, because if you're an older couple and your spouse, whether it was the man or the woman, had that veteran's exemption, and then all of a sudden he, or even gradually, he or she dies, not only are you dealing with the loss of other things that you will have in your life, but you're also all of a sudden you're going to have to pay more of the share of the tax bill for no
Significant change.
reason other than the fact that your significant
That
other
veteran passed away. Yeah.
Yeah, so that I think that makes a lot of sense, and most. Well, I don't know. Most is making a generality. A lot of veterans' benefits do continue on to the survivor,
Yes.
so it's kind of like makes sense, logical sense to be able to extend that as well.
Yep. And again, that's throughout Florida. So both of those initiatives
Are Florida based?
Are Florida based. Yes, ma'am.
So they're not just St. Lucie County.
Correct.
So, and they're number 5 and number 6.
Yes, ma'am.
And so you can watch for those.
And again,
read
on our
them through.
website, we do have some information. So if you kind of caught half of that, or you want to rewind and hear more, that you can find information right on the homepage of the website.
So we have a few more minutes, a little bit less than 10 minutes. Are there other things that can just happen to you that you may not be aware could affect your tax bill? Like, I didn't know that once I was 65 that there were greater benefits, although I should have predicted that.
Again, remember, those are income based.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay.
So it's a blessing to not receive that benefit.
I gotcha. Okay.
It's a double-edged sword on that one.
Yeah.
But
Are there, for example, we talked about if you get married, what if it doesn't matter if more people move in with you or anything, that doesn't matter. None of that matters.
correct.
It's just based on the value of your home.
Now, speaking of people moving in with you, because these are the days of Airbnb, I will mention that you can lose an exemption, your property tax exemption, by renting out your home for more than 30 days. So
In a year?
In a calendar year.
Wow, that's
so
a big one.
As long as you are in and own and occupy your property on January 1, you're in good shape, and you rent it for less than 30 days. So, you want to take a trip, you want to go out of the country, and you go for a month, and you're like, hey, I might as well get some income here while I'm spending it in another country, and you Airbnb your house for 29 days, great.
But if you're
We're all
doing
for
it
it.
for a week every month,
But if you're doing it for a week every month, if
your
you do
neighbors
it for
just love you.
31 days,
Yeah. No.
you can lose your exemption.
Okay, and here that leads me to another interesting question. Can your neighbor tell on you?
Absolutely. I will point out that I am not in the enforcement. We'll leave that up to Sheriff Ken Mascara because I'm not trying to police anybody.
That's not happening in my neighborhood,
But if you did notice that your neighbor, and it is unfair, and we do want everybody to pay their fair share. Nobody likes to pay property taxes.
Right.
But if everybody pays their fair share, that is equal. So you can call our office. Again, you can email, you can mail us a letter. You can actually go on the website, and you do not have to put in any information. So I don't know that it's Sue Ellen Sanders that's giving this information to me, but you can just put in a property address and say, you're concerned about homestead fraud.
Mm-hmm.
There is some information. If you have more information, I know they're renting it out on Airbnb. There's a space you can give us more information.
But you don't have to.
You do not have to. And maybe, again, maybe it's all on the up and up. Maybe we've had situations where, unfortunately, homeowners have gone to a nursing home for a period of time. Maybe they're in a nursing home for 2 months. And the daughter that lives in Georgia has come down and is staying at the house and going to see mom at the nursing home.
And you think they're renting it out, but they're not.
But they're not. Yeah. And so we learn, we will be in contact and we'll figure out the situation. And if that is in fact the situation, that they're not going to lose their homestead. Mm-hmm. But if they're renting it out to the Georgia person, so that they can go on vacation, then we're going to have a challenge.
Mm-hmm. So how has COVID changed what's going on at the property appraiser's office in your day-to-day operations? The county buildings are not open for business as usual.
Yeah.
But,
we've been very blessed that we were ready for, we're going to go back to the pivot word, but we were ready to pivot. We were doing some things and we had an enhanced technology over the last few years. So we were able to shift literally overnight to a virtual environment for the majority of the staff. So the professionals were working from home, other than we had little phone calls. We have a call center and professionals that had to be there to answer the phone. We were able to socially distance for those. But as far as customers, other than coming into the office, nothing has changed. And we can conduct all of the business online. If we had a couple people that didn't feel comfortable online, and so we made sure to handle that over the phone.
Mm-hmm.
So some elderly people that couldn't quite get to the computer and file for an exemption, we can take them over the phone.
Can you Zoom some of your?
Absolutely,
you can.
We've done Zoom. I mean, we've all the things, faxing, postal, mail. I mean, there's everything.
Every way.
Every way, whatever
stay in
is most
contact.
convenient for the customer is what we try to do.
So just to sum it up, between now and probably a few days from now, over this week is when you're going to be receiving your trim notice. Renters do not get a trim notice.
Correct.
Okay.
Only property owners.
So only property owners. What if somebody doesn't get their trim notice?
It's online, paslc.org. They can get it online. And call us if you don't.
Because do you want to know? That
absolutely,
was my question. Yeah.
Because we want to get that information to you. We receive thousands of them returned. We make every effort to get you your notice. But people move during this time. Things can happen. So we get many of them returned, and we send some back out when we have updated information, and some we're not sure where people took off to.
But either way, if you don't get it within the next week, you can go online and check it, and then you don't have to have it in a piece of paper in front of you in order to call and discuss it.
Correct. Absolutely. Call us. And remember, you're going to get a tax bill even if you don't get this trim notice. So do your future self a favor,
yes,
and get the information now so that you can plan appropriately.
Yeah, so you can. Michelle, is there anything else that's going on that you'd like to add? And we just have another minute or two. We talked about staying abreast of what's going on with the Facebook page.
Yes, following us on social media would be super helpful. We've talked about exemptions, so I that is everything that I can think of.
No, I thought I covered everything, and then some.
You did a fabulous job covering,
even remembering some things that you didn't think I would. You've been listening to the Sue Ellen Sanders Show. My guest today is property appraiser Michelle Franklin. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for the opportunity.
And we'll see you next time with more.
The Sue Ellen Sanders Show, weekends on WPSL. Go to WPSL.com, click on Programming Schedule, find the Sue Ellen Sanders Show, and check her out on the weekend, and in the archives on YouTube under WPSL TV. This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.